Hey guys, SUNSfan here. I'm not gonna lie, I'm pretty surprised, but shocked even. A lot of the YouTube comments were pretty positive, and that's not always the norm, I guess you could say. So what I wanted to do is just do exactly what a lot of you wanted. A lot of you wanted kind of like a podcasty type thing, so the length of this doesn't really matter, so it's going to be pretty long. I'm just going to do the rest of the Aghs. So it'll be 11 through 98. And yeah, so I don't think there's much. If you have no idea what I'm talking about, just watch the original video. It was only 15 minutes long. It was 1 through 10, which I've actually changed a couple of things based on community feedback. So yeah, let's get started. So before I do get started though, what I'd like to do, if I can show my screen here, is I would like to read part of this. It's the criteria. Okay, okay. If you really aren't interested, you don't really give a hoot or a shit for that matter, you can skip this part. But I think the thing that can frustrate me, kind of, since this took a lot of time, and it was mostly like, it's not like I'm really making money off of this or anything. It was just for fun, right? But the thing that frustrates me is certain people are very quick to judge, which, I mean, I can understand that. I can be quick to judge in certain aspects of life as well. But there's literally a criteria on here that I know a lot of people have not read that can at least explain my perspective just a little bit, because, well, there's no reason to even preface this any longer. I'm just going to read it word for word, okay? It's not too long. So the criteria for this list is of my own design, meaning that there will be flaws. But the following is what I kept in mind, and as always, there will be exceptions. So the first thing is consistency. How often is an Aghs picked up, both in terms of the farming capability as well as itemization capacity? So for that, the weight is medium. Theoretical power, how good can it potentially be? Weight, medium. And actual power, how good is it by the numbers? And I tried to be a little bit heavier on the weight for this time around. If anything is made clear by this criteria, it's that there is no such thing as a perfect system for ranking the power and potential of Aghanims in Dota 2. Perspectives will differ on what makes a good Aghs, and no one can be inherently right or wrong. Very important. I mean, I think the thing I'm trying to say, well, I guess I just wrote it here. If it was so black and white, I would just list the Aghs purchased by pro players in order of frequency, but that sounds god-awful. Like, that doesn't sound fun for me at all. That's why everybody has their own criteria, which is fine. This is my criteria, so I can't really be wrong necessarily. I mean, there's some things I can definitely tweak. Also, just because the hero picks up Aghanims every game doesn't necessarily mean it's strong in comparison to every other upgrade in the game. Part of that is because heroes have no better option. A hero that just randomly comes to mind for me is Techies. It's pretty obvious that Ice Frog and the beta testers not only want an Aghanims upgrade for every hero in the game, but in addition want them to be viable in some way. This, however, doesn't mean they want all of them to have the same ceiling. The variety and power level is what makes the game fun after all. Keep in mind that most Aghs upgrades are actually quite good, which didn't always used to be the case. It was difficult to rank them since there are so many variables to take into account. The beautiful thing about Dota is there are an infinite amount of ways to build and play each hero, and that's why making a list that everyone agrees upon would be impossible. A good example of this is lower skilled games are going to be played totally different, and you should take that into account a little bit. Obviously, the heavier weight should be for pro play, but it's kind of like a sliding scale. At least that's how I did mine in my mind. Lastly, I've separated these upgrades into 10 tiers. We kind of talked about this before, but the tiers aren't meant to be evenly distributed. They're just kind of there to illustrate what I feel are kind of the separation of scale. And as far as within the tier themselves, there's a lot of interchangeability as well. So try not to obsess over the numbers. Like, I could, as long as this list took me to make, I can probably spend an infinite amount of time tweaking it constantly. I mean, I did send it to a few people, which in this article it lists, and I did tweak a bunch of stuff. But then when you release it to the masses, a lot of people don't like certain things. A lot of people don't have the same criteria. A lot of people disagree, which is fine. Certain ones I did take into account that I actually ended up agreeing with once they brought them up. So last but not least, before I go over the rest of the list, so this is almost the point where you can start listening if you want to ignore this part. Just remember that this is an opinion piece and was done purely for fun. I'm not claiming to be an expert of any kind. I just really like Aghanim Scepters and power rankings. All in all, there's no such thing as a consensus with things of this nature. And at the end of the day, this is not a perfect list. So with the feedback of the community, like I said, I'd like to update this as time goes on. And with that, I'm going to switch my screen for 1 second so I can scroll to the bottom, and then we can start with the rest of the list. So I'd like to thank everybody that wanted me to do this, because I really do find this fun. It's kind of nerve-wracking reading some of the comments sometimes, but overall, even though this doesn't matter, it's just content. It's something that I did enjoy making. Okay, so one noticeable change from the video before, we had Treant Protector. I'm actually trying to remember what number he was. Was he number 9? I think he was number 9. Tiny was 10. He is no longer in the top 10. And we'll get to him in a bit. But yeah, so the top 9 are what the tiers are now. Or tier 3 begins with number 9. All right, so with that, let's get started, boys and girls. Number 10 is Timbersaw. You get a new skill, so a second chakram. So for this, I don't know how much explanation is needed. A lot of it is based off of, I mean, if you've noticed, there's been a lot of Aghanim Scepters added where it's just a second skill, like a duplicate almost. Mirana comes to mind, that's more passive. So a lot of it depends on, as far as how strong it is, and this is going to sound really obvious, but a lot of the strength of the Aghs depends on how strong the actual skill originally was. And this is literally a carbon copy, so there's no change, same mana cost, same everything. And this spell scales really well. Obviously, BKB will block it, but it still does pure damage. It's percentage-based. It's very, very good. Allows him to farm faster, flash farm. Yeah. Don't think there's a huge amount of explanation required for this. It's one of those simple things. This is tier 4, by the way, which, now that I think about it, it kind of sucks that we're doing it backwards, but I guess we don't really have a choice, do we? Yeah, screw it. We'll just do it this way. Doesn't matter. Tier 4, what was this? It was Eternal Envy Powerful. Oh, Envy's Blog, sorry, aka Powerful. So that's number 10. Number 11 is Pugna, Life Drain. So what the Aghs does is it increases damage from 200 to 300 per second and lowers the cooldown from 22 to 0, which is insane. So some of the changes that were made, the cast range was reduced, so that was quite a nerf from 1200 to 800. But the life drain break distance, sorry, that was also reduced at level 4, which means the break distance is when it stops channeling, and it, I believe, was higher for level 1, 2, and 3, or no, 1 and 2. So level 3 is slightly less than before. Don't quote me on that. I forgot to actually put the complete details here. But didn't I? Where was this? Oh, I completely missed. It was the first sentence. So Life Drain now grants true vision over the target. So this is a huge deal because if somebody goes Fog of War, it continues to cast. That was a huge issue for Pugna in the past. And because the cast range has been reduced, you pretty much have to get Aether Lens, and then, of course, there is a talent synergy at level 20, 150 extra cast range. Of course, that's level 20, but whatever. So Pugna, 0-second cooldown makes this, like, you can be a core Pugna and you can still heal your teammates. It's not like reserved for support or anything like that. This is a ridiculously good upgrade. You can use it on illusions to instantly just pop them and just recast again. It's very powerful. And remember, if you are full HP and you're draining from somebody, you will start draining mana. Or getting mana. It's, yeah. I'm going to try not to spend that much time on each one, but because I'm going to be here forever. Number 12 is Abaddon, Borrowed Time. This has gone up 14 spots because I was trying to be a little bit conservative when this was originally put in the game, because it seemed a little weird. Like, a lot of these new Aghs seem kind of weird, right? The duration goes up for his ult by 1 second, and then the big thing is the 50% redirect damage. So 50% all damage and a 900 AoE will be redirected to you. So obviously you will be healed. It ensures that you will be healed if any damage is taken by other people. And we kind of talked about this with Centaur Aghs. Any kind of damage mitigation is really powerful. The only issue is it is 900 AoE, but it still fits with his build, as you can see. Getting things like Blade Mail, Radiance, Octarine. That's, of course, for a core Abaddon. And then his level 20, 15% cooldown reduction is a pretty nice addition as well. Number 13 is Ancient Apparition. This is for Ice Blast, obviously. It's pretty simple. It just increases the duration from 10 to 17, which doesn't seem like that big of a deal, except for the fact that anti-heal mechanic, it's the only one in the game. It's extremely unique and ridiculously powerful, and considering you can put this on an entire team fairly consistently, is very, very powerful. Don't think this one, I think a lot of people originally, this was number 17 last time around, but a lot of people thought this should be like a top 5 Aghs, but I think lately we haven't been seeing that many Ancient Apparitions because they've been going 60 gold per minute at level 10. And Aghs, a lot of times they've kind of been skipping it. So I've been thinking about lowering this a bit more. But again, part of the criteria is how, in theory, how powerful it is, right? Not necessarily if you're going to be picking this up every game. So it's kind of a harder one to gauge right now because we don't want to change it too much based on meta, but sometimes you do, depending on how drastic it is. But people still buy Aghs on Ancient Apparition, so it's good. Number 14 is Undying Decay, which the strength increase goes from 4 to 10, which is disgusting. So each strength that you steal is 20 HP. So if you're stealing 10, you get 200 HP you steal from them onto yourself. That's for one person decay. That's the only issue with Undying is it's hard to farm this item, right? But this is super powerful. The level 10 talent synergy does help with 90 gold per minute, of course. And if you can somehow get a 25 -2 decay cooldown is stupid. Decay is 4 seconds by default, so that makes it a 2-second cooldown at 10 strength a pop. I mean, if you land this on, let's say 2 heroes, that's pretty normal to land this on 2 heroes. That's even conservative to some degree. That's 400 HP on a 2-second cooldown. Come on. Insane. Pudge is number 15, Meat Hook. This has gone up 7 spots. It increases the damage by 90 of Meat Hook and lowers the cooldown from 11 to 4. So this is one of those, the damage obviously is pretty nice since it's pure, but the bigger thing is the cooldown. The changes that were made to Pudge recently, the hook speed of Meat Hook was reduced slightly. It's semi-noticeable. I don't know how much it actually changes as far as gameplay is concerned, but maybe you Pudge pickers can let us know what you think about that. But technically speaking, since that was nerfed, it kind of buffs Aghanims, right? Because you get more chances. You don't have to wait 11 seconds if you miss this hook. And you can no longer hit invulnerable units. That's another change that was made. The level, I don't really like this. I still added it just for consistency's sake. Level 20, you get the 150 gold per minute. I mean, it's such a late one. It's not really, I don't know. But Aghs has picked up a decent amount on Pudge, so I'm not too worried about this one. But yeah, just being able to reposition heroes is powerful in its own right, and doing so at a 4-second cooldown with redonkulous range and pretty good speed makes this very powerful in my opinion. Bloodseeker is number 16. He went up 3 spots. So this one makes me happy because a lot of times when a new Aghs comes out, I'll list it semi-conservatively. Like I don't want to be too crazy about it, but this one I felt very strongly about. And as a result, I was rewarded because it's gone up 3 spots by my own choosing, of course. So I don't know why I'm patting myself on the back for that, but whatevs. But yeah, for Bloodseeker, you get a second Rupture, and it turns into a 40-second cooldown instead of 60. So yeah, I don't know, man. You're still countered by TP, sure, but if used correctly, if you have the right synergies with your team with itemization, it's super powerful. Level 20, you get a 14% Rupture damage increase. You'll always have this in a fight. You'll start off with 2, and if the fight goes long enough, you might even get a 3rd. Yeah, this is very good. I know people like to play like the meme. By the way, I saw a comment about this. I'm not saying meme. I'm saying me with a Y. They like to play the Mimi Bloodseeker with like Dagon, crazy stuff like that. You probably don't want to get Aghs in that case, but if you do the utility Bloodseeker, which I think is more consistent, then yeah, Aghs is great. Disruptor, number 17. This has gone up 6 spots. This was a hard one to rate because it's so broken in theory, but in practice, it's still very good, but I wouldn't say it's top 10. So what it does is it increases the damage of Static Storm from 300 to 420 per second, and the duration by 2 seconds, so from 5 to 7. And the biggest thing is it mutes items. So if you place it on somebody with BKB, or before they use BKB, they will not be able to activate it, and that's the big one. Being able to farm Aghs can be difficult, but there's a 60 gold per minute talent level 10. Yeah, this is really good. It's just not consistent, right? Because a lot of it's about placing it at the right time and making sure that they stay in that static storm. So, of course, kinetic field is great, but it's when you get Aghs and you want to try to prevent a BKB, it feels a little bit more difficult to place somebody within the confines of kinetic field because a lot of times I don't know, it depends on which which one you want to cast first. Like if you're glimpsing somebody, they can BKB out of it technically. So I don't know. It's just not as consistent as you would like, but it's super powerful in theory. Number 18 is Tinker. This has gone up massively by 16 spots. Your lasers will bounce and increases the missiles from 2 to 4. So if you've ever seen the laser, it's like bing, 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 bing. It can blind every single person, which is, it's actually so frustrating playing against this hero. And then, of course, the homing missiles doubles. So essentially, and I mean, obviously with Tinker, you just rearm and do it again. Going high ground against this hero is impossible. And then the talent synergies, some of this may seem like, so like for example, level 15, you get a 4% spell amp. You're like, it's pretty bad, right? You put that on any other hero, yeah, it's garbage. But Tinker can just spam spells, so I wouldn't say it's great, but it's still respectable. And the level 2500 laser damage or 20% spell lifesteal is pretty cool. But yeah, this is pretty disgusting. I don't even want to talk about this anymore. It makes me feel sick. Clockwerk at number 19 has gone up 9 spots. So hookshot, pretty simple cooldown reduction from 40 to 12. Nothing's been changed with this hero in regards to Aghs. I just think this is a very, very, very powerful upgrade because you'll have multiple initiation possibilities. You don't have to worry about missing a hook shot, similar like a Pudge, but in kind of different capacity, I guess. You can use it to get away. It's very consistent in that manner, actually, from what I've noticed. And you can farm it. This is like, I want to say, you get like Phase Boots, Blade Mail. You can go Aghs right away, or you can get it after one item, like a Lotus Orb or something like that, or Force Staff. There's a lot of, you're going to be able to farm it with Clockwerk. Sand King, Burrowstrike. It is now rank 20, used to be 30. It doubles the cast range and travel distance of Burrowstrike to a redonkulous 1300 range. And Caustic Finale is added to heroes that are stunned by Burrowstrike. So one change is the Caustic Finale no longer applies to illusions. So it used to be a very hard counter to PL, but no longer. It's not a huge nerf, but it's there. Level 20, 120 gold per minute. It's a little late, and this hero farms extremely well. So the way I look at Burrowstrike Upgrade and why it's so good is because the hero relies on mobility so much, right? You always get Blink. You always get something like a Force Staff. You have Sandstorm for some evasiveness or elusiveness, if you will. Burrowstrike becomes another Blink. So he becomes harder to kill. He ends up doing more damage thanks to the Caustic Finale. It's redonk. Number 21. This is one that some people disagree with, mainly because we don't see Brew that much. Some of this, I forgot to mention, is kind of prediction based, right? Like, I remember Purge, and this is just a random example. I know a lot of people are doing, like, they're criticizing certain ones, like nitpicking, which is fine. He really didn't like my number 7 for Centaur in my original list, back in November of 2016. He thought that it was inconsistent. I can't remember what the reasons were, but it turns out it was way better than number 7 because it became super OP and then got it got nerfed, right? So Brewmaster is one of those that I'm kind of predicting. He keeps getting buffs. So what it does is it adds your skills to the brewlings, whatever they're called. So the Earth Panda gets the Thunderclap, Storm gets Drunken Haze, and Fire gains Drunken Brawler, which is the crit and evasion. So some interesting changes to Drunken Haze. It's not AoE anymore. Of course, this is like an older change, but since the last list, it's needed to just go over. Cast time for it has been reduced. Movement speed slow increased. Mischance increased at lower levels. Blah blah blah. And then demolish damage, if you remember, was buffed heavily for the Earth Panda, and then nerfed a bit afterwards, but still pretty damn good. Hurl Boulder cast point reduced. I don't know if you guys want me to read it like this, but this is one of the few that's just a lot of changes, so it doesn't really matter. And the Fire Spirit now has phasing movement, which is pretty big. And then the Drunken Brawler crit was increased overall. So that in itself is great. The talent synergies are really good. Level 15, you can get 75 extra clap damage, which is decent. 20, you can get a 2-second Thunderclap slow, and a 25, 2,000 primal split unit health. I know that 25 is one of those that I don't look at very often because it's hard to get, but this one's so good, I just feel like I have to mention it, because the original Aghs for Panda, which used to be considered really good back in the day, all it did was increase the stats of the broodlings. Then they added these skills to each of them, and then they got rid of the stats. So it was good in theory, but hard to use in practice and didn't seem that great overall. But now you kind of get the best of both worlds. But overall, every one of his skills has been buffed for the most part, I want to say. I mean, there have been some nerfs, I guess. But overall, I'd say it's a buff. It's just a hard Aghs to use, man. Like, you get super overwhelmed. This is a high skill cap Aghanim Scepter for sure. Because you have the Earth Panda with freaking Hurl Boulder and Thunderclap. You have the Spirit. I mean, there's a lot of spells to use. Number 22 is Necrophos with Reaper Scythe. So this is rank 22. And did I not put that this was reworked? There should be a tag here. Whatever. Used to be 18 spots higher. Used to be number 4. Let's see what it used to do, guys, if you don't remember. So it used to disable buybacks, which was the most broken mechanic in the game. And it used to increase damage. It doesn't do either of those anymore. But it does lower the cooldown dramatically from 70 to 25. And then another buff to Necrophos that was indirect. All respawn talents are gone. So by default, his Reaper Scythe will add, I think it's 30 seconds to each respawn timer. Sometimes it didn't even matter when they had respawn talents, but now that's not the case, so it's kind of back to normal, right? The cooldown is insanely low. It's one of those, like, I think what was it, Beastmaster, his goes from, well, we'll get to that eventually, but it's not a huge drop. This is a huge drop for such a powerful ultimate. It just deletes somebody from the game essentially. Not quite like it used to, but that's why it's lower than it was before. But yeah, I like this one quite a bit. Treant Protectors. Yeah, this was tier 4, by the way. Envy's blog. Powerful. Treant Protector. He is 23 now. Used to be 11 spots higher. So the main reason that I forgot to mention, I didn't know, I missed this in the patch notes, but the Eyes in the Forest cooldown was increased by 10. But overall, I think the biggest feedback that I got, that I listened to about this one, is concerning pro play, and they just don't buy it. And although I did say that I don't want to exclusively look at that, it is still important to consider, right? I mean, if I only consider that, this would be like bottom 30, right? But I don't think that's the case. Like in pub games, this is a great Aghs, I feel, in a lot of skill brackets. So I kept it still in a decent position. But yeah, I still think it's really good. But I can agree that it probably shouldn't be top 10 if pros are literally never buying this thing, because there's just better items. Like you need to get a blink. It's hard to farm this in general. Yeah, so we did lower it. All right, so tier 5, which, what was it? Your 1-5K friend, aka pretty solid. Number 24 is Vengeful Spirit. This went up 11 spots. This, I'm trying to think, other than Centaur, this might be my favorite Aghs in the game. It is so freaking good. We almost never see it, and I don't give a shit, man. It's too good to not put here. So the cooldown gets reduced dramatically of Nether Swap from 45 to 10, which by itself is insanely good. This is, you pick somebody off, they're dead. You can just instantly kill somebody with this spell. Repositioning is huge. It's like a pudge hook that's guaranteed and instant. It's really good. And then the second part that it adds is it creates an illusion of yourself when you die with refreshed ability. So you'll have swap again with the low 10-second cooldown. You have Wave of Terror, Magic Missile, all that good stuff. And then here are some of the talent synergies, like 100 extra Magic Missile damage, which that's the one I don't usually get when I play like a Core Venge. But then again, I don't really go Aghs on Core Venge either. I mean, it depends on the game, I guess. But yeah, I think this is super, super, super underrated. I forget what I put with most. Oh, I remember now. I had an most underrated Aghs in the game. This probably would be my second choice. I think it's really good. I am biased. Number 25 is Ursa. Was 8 spots lower before. Why does it, wait, higher? Am I going crazy? Sorry, it is 5:20 in the morning. I'm having a brain fart right now. I'm actually getting confused by my own criteria right here with the rankings. So Treant Protector used to be 11 spots lower. Oh, that's a good thing. Yeah. Man, I wasn't confused by this before, but now that people mention it, it's confusing me a bit. Because it's going backwards. Okay, whatever. So this used to be worse. The green is bad, apparently. Damn it. No. Yeah, I mean, that is, but... okay. I don't know what I'm thinking. Sorry. This has gone up 11 spots. That's a good thing. This has gone down 11 spots. That's a bad thing. Jesus. Whew, I need more sleep. So what this does is for Enrage, aka his ultimate, the cooldown will be reduced by 30 to 18. That's okay. And then it allows use while disabled, which is very powerful. So for somebody like Ursa, or any carry for that matter, kind of the goal is to burst him down, right, before he gets off his BKB, because he's still going to probably get BKB. I guess it depends on the game. But this allows you to get the brunt of damage to start with, and then as they're pounding you in with burst damage, you just click R, you take a lot less damage, and yeah, you get undisabled. It's good stuff. Number 26, it's gone up 12 spots, is Chen. Holy Persuasion can take over ancient creeps. And I forgot to put how many, but there's a 3 cap limit. This is quite good. I would say I definitely underrated this a bit last time, just because it's, I don't know. You can't really feel the impact that ancients have, right? Because it's mostly aura. They don't do that much damage. It's just mostly the auras overall. But some changes that were made: Holy Persuasion cooldown reduced by 8 seconds, and then some talent synergies. I don't think the gold per minute, I don't know. The 1,000 health creep is really nice. And then +2 Holy Persuasion max count. So that doesn't increase the ancients that you can get, but it increases the other ones. So in theory, you can have 6 creeps, 3 of which are ancients. That's the Cliff's Notes of that. Number 27, Marana Starstorm adds a passive Starstorm, which has been, even though I don't list it here, it's been nerfed time and time again to be a longer cooldown and to not deal the second ticket damage, all that good stuff. This used to be 12 spots higher. It has now been lowered because a lot of it's because Marana is kind of meh right now. The Aghs is still really good. See, I'm kind of rethinking now. Maybe this should be tier 4. I don't know. It's close to the right number, though. It should be between 30 and 20 somewhere. It's still really good. It's one of those items that accelerates your farm. You can deal a lot of extra damage. It's pretty core. As of late, people have been kind of going away from it, but it's too early to tell whether that's going to stick. Number 28, Shadow Shaman. This has gone up 16 spots. It increases the range of Mass Serpent Wards from 600 to 825. And the Serpent Wards now, instead of a splash attack, deal damage to 2 units at the same time. So yeah, I'm putting the changes here. That's what I just said. Aghs updated to also increase attack range of wards. So that wasn't there before. So this is a very deceptively good Aghanim Scepter. This I think I put as... Oh no, I was thinking of a different one. But yeah, this is the one that is most underrated, I think. And in fact, I think it would be nice if there was a visual upgrade to the Serpent Wards when you get Aghs, because they are disgustingly good. It's actually sickening. And it's a hero that I know it's not playing the core that often, but even in like a 4 position, if you can get away with it, this hero can farm really well. Getting all those towers, being able to push down waves and whatnot. And I don't know. It's deceptively good. Just trust me. Just trust me, guys. Number 29 is Visage, or Visage, if you prefer. It's 29. This was a lot lower before. It summons a 3rd familiar. This was kind of a hard one to do, to be perfectly honest, because it's one of those that you kind of have to get it on the hero, or else he just blows. Familiars were changed a lot, and I haven't really gotten to see him played enough to know. I mean, they're better than before. They're more resilient than before, for sure. But this is one that I'm just throwing out there. I know it's good, but with my criteria, there's a few upgrades that just confuse me that I can never make my mind up on. The 90 gold per minute talent synergy at level 10 is pretty nice, and the 25, if you can get there for the familiar move speed, adds 120 move speed to them. Sickening to think about. I really hate that hero, though, overall. Shadow Demon is number 30. It's about in the same spot as before. He gains 3 charges of Demonic Purge with 40-second replenish time, and Demonic Purge breaks passives. So, in a vacuum, this is a top 10 Aghs, I think. But you kind of bring him down because he's not played that much anymore, and also he can't farm this. He really has trouble. He has no gold per minute talent. And yeah, that's pretty much it. I think being able to break passives is great. Having 3 of these is huge. If you're going to be freaking this far, you might as well get to level 25, right? You can add 400 extra damage to this freaking thing. So I don't know, man. It's really good. This is more one of those, it's good in theory, probably good in practice, but he can't pick it up, right? So it takes out 2 out of the 3 boxes. But number 31 is Witch Doctor. He's similar range as before for Death Ward. It bounces up to 4 times and provides True Strike to Death Ward. That's the new change. This is one I probably don't need to explain too much. It's really, really, really powerful if you pull it off, but Witch Doctor always has the issue of channeling this thing, right? And this doesn't really change that at all. You need extra farm, not only to get this Aghs, but you need extra farm to ensure that you can cast it. So like a Glimmer Cape, BKB, something of that nature. Number 32, World Devourer. So this is a brand new reworked one. This used to be our worst, as you can see. It used to be 57 spots lower, but it is now in a respectable tier 4, or is this tier 5? I can never remember. Tier 5, I think. So let's see what it used to do before we get to the new one. So the old Scepter used to cast Astral Imprisonment on all enemies hit with Sanity's Eclipse, which was horrible. And the reason it was horrible is because... All right, let's go back even further to actually explain this properly. What it used to do before that was the same thing, but the reason it was good is because Astral Imprisonment used to steal intelligence. So you would cast this thing instead of his Q, of course, Arcane Orb. So this would you cast this on all the enemies, that's 5 heroes, you steal all their int, and they all take damage from the Astral afterwards. And they take the damage from the ult itself. It was quite good. They changed it to steal intelligence with his Q, but they never changed his Aghs. So now they finally changed it to grant 2 charges of Astral Imprisonment with a 12-second replenish time and increases the range from 450 to 750 and damage areas stack. So this is, in theory, very cool. The range thing, maybe this looks like big to you. It is. This is huge. 450 is pretty small. 750 is enormous. In case you're wondering, the normal cooldown of Astral Imprisonment, I believe it was 8 seconds. So it technically increases the cooldown, I guess you could say, but you get 2 of them. So that's not really the case, right? And the damage area stack, which is a nice quality of life thing. So this is one of those, I would say, if you're not decently high skill level, it might not be good. And this is one of those I'm kind of predicting from a pro level. I think this is going to be really good. Like if you play OD, I think you get this because Aghanim's was always, like stat wise, it was always good for OD. He likes all the stats on it. The agility is meh compared to the others, but it's still decent, right? It gives you attack speed or whatever. But yeah, having 2 of these, you can do so much with it as a good player. And when I say good player, I mean there's no way I could make use of this. Because you can, with Astral, you can F over your team, right? So that's always it's kind of a double-edged sword. But yeah, this is what I'm kind of predicting. I think it's good, but we'll have to wait and see. That was tier 5. I'm sorry, tier 5 was Purge's picks. Not actually approved by Purge, of course. Very important. So tier 6 is the 5K friend. Seems solid, which is coming up now. So Chronosphere for Faceless Void is number 33. Decreases the cooldown of Chronosphere from 100 to 60. Seems boring. I think it's quite good. Like on a core void, you're not going to get this, right? Because you can't fit Aghs into your item build. But if you're off lane, this is completely core. A core item, that is. Because Chronosphere is the spell that you need to be successful. Not that you don't need it for core, but you can fit it in itemization-wise because the stats are nice. You'll have this for every fight with a 60-second cooldown. Yeah, I don't know. I don't think there's much explanation. You guys know how good Chronosphere can be. 34 is Zeus, and this is a new skill named Nimbus, the Nimbus Cloud. His old Aghs, let's go over that first. It was very boring. It used to be 51 spots lower, so this got quite the increase. It used to grant Zeus, it no longer increases the damage of Thunder God's Wrath. That's all it did. It made it like a level 4 ultimate. It was really bad compared to other Aghs. And I know that a lot of pubbers, and I know this by looking at stats, a lot of people love this item because they bought it every game. And it was a horrible Aghs, just god-awful, trust me. Now, instead of a horrible Aghs, you get a good one. You get an ability called Nimbus Cloud that you can put anywhere on the map. It lasts 35 seconds, and it constantly shoots out lightning bolt, lightning bolt, lightning bolt, lightning bolt, which is pretty cool because you can push out waves if you really need to, or in a team fight, you just place it somewhere, and it does extra damage for you, and it mini-stuns. And of course, with the talent synergy at level 20, 0.5 second extra mini stun to lightning bolt, which is insane, especially if you get refresher. Just think about that, guys. Ooh, you can perma-stun somebody if you time it right. But I really like this skill. It's kind of not seen as often in the pro play. Actually kind of trying to remember if I've ever seen it, because Zeus just isn't played. That's the main thing, I think. But this is pretty damn good overall. Of course, to kill it, it's kind of like Tusk's skill that flies around. What is that called? Whatever. It takes a few hits to kill. Luna is number 35. This has gone down 22 spots. I used to have it very high. I still love this Aghs, but it's difficult to fit Aghs onto this hero is the problem. But in theory, it's so freaking good that in certain games, I think it is good. BKB still counters it, but, whatever. So what it does, it increases the cast range from, instead of casting it on yourself, that is Eclipse, you can cast it far away, 2,500 range to be exact, or you can put it on somebody. Putting in just an AoE allows it to just run its full course. If you put it on somebody or even yourself like usual, it will stop when you die. It increases the beams from 11 to 18, and there's no longer a limit per unit, which is the biggest change, I think, which I'll explain in a second. There's shorter interval. It lasts a less amount of time, so that means it deals more damage in a smaller amount of time, and there's no limit per unit. That means, I'm trying to, did I write it down here? No. The ultimate without Aghs, let's say you have one hero here, and you're ulting him by himself. There's only so many beams that can hit that one hero. That's what that means. So Aghs removes that restriction. And with Aghs, as I wrote here, at level 3, it will deal 5,400 damage in 5 seconds. And if you upgrade the talent, which adds 40 Lucent Beam damage, it deals 6,120 damage. So let's say there's one person. If they have less than, not including magic resistance, if they have less than this amount of HP, they die. It's really good. But again, it's hard to fit this on the hero. If there's an Alk, this is the #1 Aghs you give, I think. Well, that's not true, but it's really good. Bat Rider's number 36. It's gone up 13 slots. His Flaming Lasso will now deal 100 damage per second, so you get a nice little extra damage out of it no matter what. That's the consistent part. And then the not consistent part, but completely game-breaking in some ways, is your Flaming Lasso will grab a unit within 400 range. An additional unit, I'm sorry. So you can drag 2 people at once. I'm not sure if I need to explain this one, because just think about it. Yep, it's good. It's really good. It's more of a luxury item, though. Like, you're still going to get Blink, you're still going to get Force Staff, you're still going to get... I mean, you could make this the 3rd item, theoretically, but like a Yule's, Lotus Orb, something like that. Storm Spirit, number 37. It's gone up 20 spots. Electric Vortex becomes a 475 AoE, so you don't even need to click anywhere. You just click W, everything around you gets stunned. Some synergies for the talents, level 25, 0.75 second Electric Vortex. If any of you saw EG play recently, it was funny. I was actually working on this list as he played that game. I had this about 15 spots, I want to say lower, meaning it was worse. And then Sumail just literally won the game by himself because of the skill. And I was like, oh, yeah, okay. It's about what I expected from my wildest dreams. So let's boost it up a bit. So the issue with this is it's not picked up that commonly right now, but I don't think that matters for this criteria, right? In theory, it's completely broken. It's like a mini Ravage on, 18-second cooldown. I think the buildup is nice for Storm. He just doesn't get mana regen from the item, but still, you can't have everything. It's a luxury item for sure. It's like a 4th, 5th, or 6th item. But, I mean, I can see you arguing that because of consistency, it should be not this high, but it's so broken that I felt I need to put it at least in this tier. Number 38 is Phoenix Supernova. It creates, or it adds 2 more hits to destroy from 11 to 13. And the big thing is you can bring an ally inside. So this one is not super consistent, I want to say. First of all, it's kind of hard to get Aghs on Phoenix at times. The 150 gold per minute talent level 15 is really nice, though, to be able to do that. The egg, depending on, I mean, a lot of it depends on what team you're playing against, right? If they have a troll or something, your egg's just going to die every time. Of course, you do add, like I said, 2 hits to the egg with the Aghs. The level 25, you can add an extra 2. When it gets that high, most of the time, unless you're against one of these crazy lineups, your egg is virtually unkillable a lot of the time, especially if you use your fire spirits correctly. So yeah, the main thing is bringing ally inside. You bring an ally inside with you. If the egg is killed, you both die. That's the risk, right? But the reward is you both revive, full HP, full mana, all your skills other than your ultimate back off cooldown. Think about how disgusting that is. This is a very late game scenario, though. That's the thing, right? Like, in theory, this could be a top 10. If Phoenix suddenly became a core and this was like a normal item to purchase, this would probably get a big buff on this list at least. So, but right now, 38, pretty respectable. 39 is Skywrath Mage. It's been reworked. The old one was garbage. Let's see, it no longer, so it used to increase duration of Mystic Flare and reduce the cooldown dramatically. But now it will cause all of Skywrath Mage's spells, that means his, like all of them, to cast twice. And the second one would be on a random target. This can be kind of inconsistent, but you can manipulate it in ways based on positioning to be very powerful. It's one that we haven't gotten to see in professional games, I want to say, because it's hard to get this item. I do believe there's an alternate reality where mid Skywrath is the thing. I know Weehab really wants that to be a thing. It happens occasionally. But yeah, Skywrath Aghs, I think, is very strong. I mean, just imagine, like, just Ancient Seal by itself, I think. You silence 2 people. It's super good, I think. Super good. Number 40 is Techies. I begrudgingly improved this by 15 slots because people thought I was an idiot for having this so low. It increases the cast range of your remote mines from 500 to 700, increases the damage from 600 to 750, and adds a minefield sign, which that one can be pretty broken. So when you put a minefield sign on any of your mines, they become invisible. You can't detect them no matter what. Nothing will detect them during that period. So yeah, and his talent synergies are quite nice, I have to say. So 200 cast range at level 15. The gold per minute one, it's good, but I mean, it's at level 20. And then the 20% cooldown reduction at 25 is super nice if you can get there. I hate Techies. I don't want to spend any more time with this guy, but it's an Aghs you have to get to make him viable. So, meh. 41 is Warlock. This went down 9 slots. So it creates a second golem with reduced stats. That's the thing that a lot of people don't realize. I mean, this is a good Aghs. I just think it's a bit overrated. So the changes that were made in the last few months, Chaotic Offering mana cost increased by, it was actually by 50 2 times, making a total of 100. And the cooldown has been increased by 5 seconds. And that one doesn't really matter. Obviously, the level 20 summons a golem on death is super cool. That's level 20, though, on a Warlock. And the level 25 is really good. Being able to choose between 15 armor on your golems or spell immunity. This one, did I write it here, I believe? So based on the stats, when you get Aghs, instead of creating just 2 golems that are of equivalent stats as your original one, it's 2 golems at 25% less stats, I believe. So it ends up being, it's like you have 1.5 golems, really. Technically speaking, if you could get away with it, which you cannot, I don't think, because of so much mana, but Refresher by itself is better than Aghs, right? Because you get 2 full stat golems. But Aghs with Refresher is obviously dirty, if you can get it. So I would say this is still a good Aghs upgrade, just I think people overrate it a bit. Number 42 is Queen of Pain. It increases the damage of Sonic Wave from 470 to 555 and lowers the cooldown from 135 to 40. You can just spam this. Pretty simple. The spell Lifesteal level 25 is one that people love to look at. It's, if you can get there, it's super good. I mean, you're low on HP, you just use Sonic Wave, which is only 40-second cooldown on a wave. You're full HP a lot of the time. So, or it would be every time it's a full wave, I believe. So yeah, it's very powerful. Yeah, I think now that we're getting lower on the list, even though I'm scrolling up, we'll probably talk less about these since they're getting a little bit more obvious, I think. So Lina is number 43. Laguna Blade turns into pure damage and goes through spell immunity. This is very good because a lot of times Lina just tapers off once people start to get BKBs. But this allows her to go through BKB. So it allows her to continue to be God tier in some cases. So this is another one that's kind of self-explanatory. The level 10, 125 cast range is super good. Wait, what's the other one? The other one might be better. I can't remember. But it doesn't synergize with the Aghs necessarily. Venomancer is number 44. Poison Nova damage increased from 80 to 110 per second, and the cooldown reduced from 100 to 60. So this is almost like having a level 4 ultimate, which it's okay, but the cooldown gets reduced even more than what it should be. This would be like equivalent to level 5 based on how it scales. So if you're playing I think no matter what position you're playing in Venomancer, you want to try to get this at some point. There's no way to farm well, though, unless you're playing core, because there's no talent synergies and as far as gold per min or anything like that. So still a good Aghs, I believe. Number 45, this one's really cool. Silencer. Used to be 29 lower. So what it used to do, it used to cast Arcane Curse whenever you use your ult. So you use your ult, cast Arcane Curse on everybody. It was pretty underwhelming, honestly. Now, instead of that has been deleted. It causes glaives to pierce spell immunity and deal 100% more damage to silenced enemies. So one of the issues with Silencer, obviously, is you pop your ult and people BKB. Now, instead of being completely worthless, you will at least be able to attack them with your glaives through BKB. Now, if they're still silenced, like if they BKB first and then you silence, or if they just don't have BKB at all, you deal double damage. This is for core Silencer. I think it's very strong. I think it's very, very strong. Maybe I should put it a little bit higher, actually. Wind Ranger is number 46, Focus Fire. There's no more damage reduction for it, so from 30% to 0. Reduces the cooldown from 60 to 15 and removes penalties from any unique attack modifiers. So this one is another kind of hard one because Wind Runner is garbage. Terrible hero. I looked at stats for a lot of these Aghs, and this is the one that I thought was kind of relevant. Did I write? I don't think I wrote it down. Oh, yeah. So with a decent sample size, Windrunner had a 26% win rate in pro games with Aghs, and without, 45%. So no matter what, she's a bad hero because it's under 50%. With Aghs, that doesn't mean Aghs is bad, though. Remember. So essentially what this means is if she gets an Aghs, it means she's playing the core role, like a mid Windrunner. 26%, that means that is just not viable. I mean, there's no way around it, right? If you don't get Aghs, you are playing a support Windrunner, which is, it seems, more viable. But does that change how good the Aghs itself is? Or is it the hero that's bad, right? This is where things get complicated with this. Because you can interpret this any way you want. And you can come up with it. You can justify anything. That's the frustrating thing about doing a list like this. So I had it very high before. I still think it's good. I think it's quite good. And after thinking about it for a while, I think this is around the area that I think it should stay. Remember, if we're getting into the 50s, the 60s, the 70s, a lot of these Aghs are good. Just because they're low on the list doesn't mean they're bad. It's in comparison to other Aghs, remember. A lot of it depends on how strong the hero itself is too, right? Like you can have a worse Aghs on a better hero and it might seem better. I don't know. A lot of things to think about. 47, Enchantress, impetus attack, or it's not just impetus, but your attack range in general, it's like a Dragonlance on crack, goes up from 550 to 740, which synergizes with impetus, and it stacks with the Dragonlance. And then level 15 talent plus 50 damage. Nice. And then 6% impetus damage at level 25 if you ever get there. Enchantress kind of not really seen that much anymore. But I think this Aghs is really good because remember, her ult goes through BKB. It's pure. And yeah, I don't want to talk about this anymore. This one is pretty good spot, I think. The two redheads next to each other. I didn't realize that. Number 48 is Shadow Friend. His Necromastery and Requiem are affected. So it increases his souls from 36 to 46. So that's 20 damage. Just from his attack, that is. That's not including the damage you get from the soul itself when you ult. And the Requiem will return to you and heal. So you get more souls around you, which deal more damage. Based on how much damage you do, they come back and they deal damage again, and it heals you. It's pretty damn good, and I think it's on the verge of starting to get picked up, but we'll see. This is something the pros don't pick up too often. I remember Weehaw picked it up a lot in pubs and whatnot, like a year ago. Like experimenting, you'd get a Blink Dagger, a Yule's, and Aghs, and then Refresher. So what you do, it's actually really fun. I've tried it. You Yule's an enemy target, you blink into the Yule's while he's in the air, and you ult. Boom, boom. Insta-gives almost every hero. And when it gets super late game, you do that twice with Refresher, 2 different targets. That's kind of like the caster Shadow Fiend, which isn't really a thing. In a few games that we've cast recently, we've seen Shadow Fiends go back to getting a mech, which was an old school thing that's maybe coming back again. I think in that role, I actually believe Aghs would be pretty decent, but I mean, who knows? Now, keep in mind, there's other talent synergies. The 6% spell lamp at level 15 is decent. The level 21 is really good. You get +2 damage per Necro Mastery Soul. So the 46 souls, is that 92 damage? God, I hope that's right. So 92 damage, you basically double that. And then you double your damage. It's ridiculously good. It's a ridiculously good talent. So I'm a fan. I know a lot of people are kind of iffy on it. I think it's good, though. Number 49. Oh, my God. This is the Aghs of the future, guys. I'm here to sell you on it. Most people are haters. Ricky. Tricks of the Trade. It increases your ultimate from 5 to 9 seconds and allows you to target an allied hero, thereby hiding inside them for the duration. So 9 seconds, that's 10 attacks. Let's say you synergize, because a lot of times you're going to pick a hero that kind of synergizes with Ricky's ult, at least to some degree, right? Like a, I don't know, Magnus, whatever. You RP, you go inside of Magnus, and for 9, just think about how long 9 seconds is. For 9 seconds, you are invulnerable, and you're attacking. I think this is very, very strong. There's a bug right now where if you click yourself and just do it in place, you don't see the channeling time. I'm hoping that gets fixed because you actually don't know how long you have left. The reason that's important, it's kind of like, think of it in some cases like a phase shift where, because I shouldn't say a lot of times, if you get enough farm, you're going to want to get like a Blink Dagger on Ricky, actually, because you can just blink out of this thing anytime. You'll almost never be in trouble. Yeah, some synergies for the talents. The level 25 one is huge, plus 0.4 Cloak and Dagger backstab multiplier, which is way more than you think it is. Trust me. But yeah, I could be wrong on this one, guys. I won't lie. But I want to believe. I've tried this in pubs, and I find it to be pretty good. Pretty freaking good. Number 50 is Enigma with Black Hole. It adds the current level of Midnight Pulse to Black Hole, so it's essentially just adding damage, right? But the important thing to understand is there's 2 aspects to this. First, kind of the issue with Enigma a lot of times is you have this spell called Midnight Pulse, which deals percentage-based damage, means it scales really well. You don't really, a lot of times at least, don't have time to put down the Midnight Pulse and then Black Hole on top, because then you kind of lose the surprise factor, right? Because in a lot of cases you want to blink, ult, be done with it. You don't want to spend extra time. Oh, let me put down a Midnight Pulse, guys. Just wait for it. But that accent or that that impression. Oh, I'm getting tired. Jesus. Okay, where was I? So you don't have time to cast it. Now, let's say you do have time to cast it. You will have 2 Midnight Pulses on that Black Hole. That deals, just during the Black Hole itself, the duration, not including the damage from the Black Hole itself, you will deal 42.5% of max HP in pure damage. That means no matter how much HP you have, or the enemies have, That amount of HP will go missing just from the Aghs plus another Midnight Pulse. It adds a lot of damage. That's not including people hitting them during Black Hole. That does not include, like I said, the Black Hole itself damage. So, yeah. And Enigma can farm like a mother effer. Like level 15 talent, 120 gold per minute. I mean, you probably get the 15% cooldown reduction, maybe not. Sometimes you just go Octarine and get the gold per minute. I think that actually might be more common. So yeah, I like this one. 51 is Bristleback Nasal Goo. This is one people are going to hate me for. Goo becomes an AoE. And this is kind of a double-edged sword in some respects. So on the bad end, the reason this is not good is you cannot pop Lincolns. That's kind of a big deal sometimes. But on the other hand, you will lower the armor of people all around you. And remember, Bristleback's going to be in the thick of things. He's always going to be in the middle. And you can constantly cast it. Just run, cast it. You don't have to stop to do that garbage. It takes less time to do. And my God, I'm missing a big thing. Holy crap, I'm getting tired. So the talent synergies, +2 mana regen at level 10. And then at 15, you get +4 max goose stacks. I don't think I've ever seen anybody actually get that one before. Oh, of course, the most obvious thing, the thing I was missing. The reason that the Aghs is good is because you can increase your Warpath stacks. Because think of it this way. If you have no enemies around, what's the way that you would increase your stacks? You hit W, Cool Spray, right? Now you can hit both to essentially speed the time in which you... Speeden the time. My English is so bad when I'm tired. Holy crap, it's like a second language to me. You can make it quicker by 2 times without any enemies around, which is pretty nice. But yeah, it's a little bit situational, I would say. Gyrocopter is number 52. This used to be way lower. I was kind of a hater, but I've been using it a lot. I'm not going to lie, it's pretty good. So what it does is it adds a side gunner to you. It's just essentially you get a second attack for free passively every 1.1 seconds. So it's all going to be based, it'll proc all your items. So if you get Maelstrom, Satanic, MKB, you'll always hit every 1.1 seconds somebody around you. It's a random target, so that's the negative. But the talent synergies are pretty nice, I have to say. So level 15, this is around the time that I might be getting the Aghs, or close to it. 30 damage. So that's 30 damage to you and 30 damage to the side gunner. So that's kind of like having 60 damage extra. Level 20, plus 35 move speed. Just think about how you want to play with Aghs on Gyro. You're constantly running around, and the faster you are, the more effective you're going to be with Rocket Barrage and, of course, your side gunner. So this one's pretty good. It helps you farm. It does a lot of things. There's a bit of a build-up for Gyro, and the one issue is he's just not played right now. That is kind of an issue, but I think it's a solid build-up. Number 53 is Tuska. He gets a new skill called Walrus Kick. I used to have this super low, by the way. So essentially, Walrus Kick will kick somebody 14... Just think about this. 1,400 distance. That is so stupid. So I think the main reason people hate this Aghs, and I was one of them, let me remind you, I have no... I don't mind admitting it. The reason I hated this is because in lower level games, which we can't take too heavily on the scale here, you can screw up your teammates. Let's say somebody's getting kind of low and you kick them and, they're not quite dead, but you've kicked them away, so you can't even catch up anymore. That really sucks. But the upside is so huge for this freaking skill. Let's just talk about on the higher levels of play for now, and then you can decide whether you think you can actually do this. Blink Dagger is pretty core on Tusk, if you can get it. That's one issue, is his farm capabilities. Let's see. He has the gold per minute at level 15. It's okay, 90 gold per minute. The level 10, 40 XP gain is the biggest in the game. It is huge. You always get this. It's so freaking good. I forgot to mention some the change is it used to not go 900 distance, or it used to do 900 distance. Now it's 1400, and it increased the cast range a bit, and the turn rate of Tusk. This one's really important because you get a Blink Dagger, and then you face the direction. Like you have to position yourself correctly so you know where, because you're going to kick them in front of you, right? But this could be good in two ways. You can kick them the direction where your team is, so you can isolate them and just kill them. Or, and I think this one might be a little bit more consistent, you don't even need a Blink Dagger for this. Let's say a Sven or some hard carry comes into the team fight for the enemy and has a BKB activated, blinks in. You go in, you kick him 1400 distance away, goes through BKB. He's flying. He has to walk all the way back. By the time he's back, you may have killed another one of his teammates. His BKB is over, even if it's like it's an 8-second. I don't know what the time it would be. I guess it depends on the hero. But regardless, it has very high upside. I think it's a cool upgrade, and I hope to see it more in competitive. It's starting to get picked up. Number 54 is Puck Dream Coil. So this one, a lot of people are misinformed, I think. I think it's a good upgrade. I think it's not amazing, but the link break damage. So link break means when you leave the area in which you're confined, right? So the damage increase from that is up 100, from 200 to 300. The stun, this is the huge one, goes from 3 seconds to 4.5 seconds. And the coil, the regular coil duration from 6 to 8. That's also enormous. And then the link break stun goes through spelling media. So I think originally a lot of people were misinformed or confused. They thought that Aghs would, the initial stun would go through BKB. That is not the case with Aghs. It's the break. So if you can reliably get somebody to break or to move them out of the area, then it'll go through BKB. It's just force staff them out or whatever the case may be. And there you go. But yeah, you're keeping them confined for 8 seconds, right? So it's pretty powerful in its own right. A little bit situational depending on the game. Of course, I have to mention level 25. It does get a 420 gold per minute talent. That's the biggest in the game. 420. With that, I'm gonna take a drink of water. It's pretty good though. Oh, yeah. Okay. 55 is Drow Ranger, Marksmanship. Essentially, when you get Aghs, you get a Splinter attack. So it'll hit 2 targets within 375 AoE for 50% damage reduction. I had this a lot higher before. I think it's still kind of dependent on the game. It helps you farm. It helps you push a lot faster as far as waves are concerned. And the talent synergies are really nice as far as damage as well. But Chain Lightning, the proc cooldown has been added. So 0.2 seconds. It means you can't proc lightning on multiple attacks instantly. Could technically be wrong on this one. This is what I've been told though. So if that's the case, then this has gotten a lot worse. Although I did have this probably too high than I should have before. So it's solid. And that's why we call it the pretty solid tier. That's perfect. Tier 6. All right. Tier 7 coming up. Which one is this? Oh, this is Bruno's Wardrobe, I believe. AKA flashy and all over the place. Meepo. Oh, number 56. He gets another Meepo. This has gone down 47 spots. This used to be top 10 Aghs. So what has changed? And I think I saw somebody in one of the comments saying something to the effect of, this is core on Meepo. How can you have this so low? Well, it's simple. It's not core on Meepo. People don't buy it anymore, actually. And the reason for that is the old way it used to work, it didn't just give you another Meepo, but it also shared attributes to all your Meepos, which was huge. And now it does that by default. You don't need Aghs for it. That means a huge part of the Aghs is just gone. So what you get is another Meepo, which it's good, but it's not as nearly as good as it used to be, which is evident based on people buying multiple Dragon Lances over an Aghs, even though he farms ridiculously fast. So, yeah, I don't think there's much to say about that one. This is actually higher than I wanted it. I wanted to put it much lower, but we told me not to. So, number 57, Legion Commander. This one's pretty cool. So this has gone up 29 spots based on the latest buff. So when you buy Aghs, it's again one of these double-edged swords bad boys, but your duration of duel goes from 5.5 to 8 seconds, which is huge. And only LC and the opponent can take damage from each other. So you lock in with somebody, only you two can do damage. That doesn't mean you can't be disabled. At least that's what it used to mean, right? So a lot of times people would... Well, first of all, there's a lot of ignorance that goes along with this, right? Your teammates might not know what LC Aghs do. And pros have done this time and time again when it's picked up, where they'll throw all their spells on the dual target because that's what they're used to doing. But when you get Aghs, you can't do that. It's just Legion versus this other person. But what you used to be able to do is just like if there's a nightmare or something, I guess you could still technically... No, you can't. You can do the... No, whatever. If there's some spell you can stun, it won't do damage to LC. You would stun LC just so she can't hit any longer, or at least for that duration, right? But now the latest addition is it now applies by default spell immunity. So anytime you're dueling, you will be spell immune as well, which is huge. The counters will be much less. A lot less things go through BKB, but the same issues kind of remain, right? Where you have to be able to kill the target. Actually, now that I say that out loud, that's not true. So there's two ways to do it. If you're snowballing an LC really hard and you can pretty much kill anybody, and you just like, I don't need your guys' help. I'm just going to take this guy out of the fight and kill him myself. That's fine. Get it. As long as you communicate to your team. The second scenario is you're kind of down. You're not able to kill somebody, but there's somebody really important that you need to get out of the fight. Like let's say there's a sniper in the back line. You know you can't kill him for whatever reason because you're having a really shitty game. You can still just take him out of the fight for 8 seconds while the rest of your team fights everybody else. Like there's certain situations where that is actually quite good. So a little bit situational. A lot of people think this is super core in her. I don't know if I'd go that far. I think it's pretty damn good though. I like it. Number 58 is Jakiro Macropyre. It doubles the cast range and distance, makes it essentially global. Let's not kid ourselves. The damage goes up from 180 to 225 per second, and it lasts for 30 seconds. Gracious me, oh my. Level 10, you get this 8% spell amp. The one everybody wants to hear about is the new one. Level 25, Macropyre now deals pure damage and goes to BKB. So this one is interesting. It's mostly for pushing waves. If somebody's trying to go high ground on you and you have this, good luck. That's an entire wave, maybe 2. That's gone. You're not pushing anything, bro. But the inherent issue is keeping people in that Macropyre, right? In some like certain combinations are great, which is why this is kind of ranked a little higher than some people maybe think. I know people that think this should be like top 30. I don't agree with that though. I think 58's a decent spot. Still, like I said, if you guys were watching or read my last list 5 months ago, 58, maybe we're having the same discussion about a good Aghs, right? Things have changed quite a bit. Number 59 is, I can't wait to talk about this one, is the most overrated Aghs in the game. And that's much to my dismay, by the way, because I really wanted this to work. It's Anti-Mage. Spell Shield, it causes it to passively block and reflect targeted spells every 12 seconds. So it's like a Linken's and a Lotus Orb built in, right? So, nothing has been changed. So the reason I don't think it's that great is because in most cases, Linken's or BKB will be better. And the reason for that is there's a lot of ways to manipulate the spell shield, like using Force Staff, certain skills like Charge of Darkness. I mean, that's just a random example. Sure, you can pop Linken's with Charge, but you can't make him charge you. With this, you can. And of course, it gets disabled by Silver Edge, which is a huge deal. Somebody gets Silver Edge against Anti-Mage, your 4,200 gold item becomes literally worthless other than the stats. And I forgot to mention Nyx. Nyx is like a huge counter. So think about this. You're Nyx Assassin, you're invisible. And you know how you have that awkward time where you're like, I have to hit him with my Vendetta, then I have to stun, but he might blink away during that time. Well, you might not be able to hit your, your Vendetta, but you can guarantee the stun still. You don't even have to be invisible. In fact, I don't even know why I brought that up. It's just in a team fight, let's say. You pop Spiked Carapace, and you mana burn him. What does that do? It causes your mana burn not to do any damage to him. It gets blocked. But then he casts mana burn on you. But you have Spiked Carapace, which means he takes the mana burn damage, and then he gets stunned. It's literally an instant stun on AM. So you can abuse it. Sometimes it is amazing, though. We've seen Juggernaut ult get used. There's a lot of cool ones. It's not consistent, though. Really depends on the game. Sometimes it's pretty cool. I would say Lincoln's BKB is always going to be better. In fact, I think this might need to be lower now that I've been saying it out loud. But we will leave it here for now, friends. But yeah, this is the most overrated Aghs in the game, I do believe, with a close second being Warlock. But Warlock's is still good. That's the thing. Number 60 is Razor, Eye of the Storm. You get faster intervals on Eye of the Storm from 0.5 to 0.4, and it targets structures. Of course, the structures won't lose armor, but this essentially allows Razor to be picked and still be able to push more than just waves, right? I think this is a situational pickup. It's pretty simple, I think. If you need a high ground pusher and you don't have one, then Razor can become it. If not, he can go other items. He's pretty flexible. I really like Razor. He can be built a lot of different ways. Number 61, Spirit Breaker, Nether Strike, cast range increased from 700 to 850. It adds 250 AoE and lowers the cooldown from 60 to 20. This is one you're not really going to see too often because it's hard to farm on him. His gold talent is level 20. Good luck getting that in a normal game. If you're off lane and you farm a lot, if you get Midas, sure. Pro play, you may never see Aghs in the next 6 months. But a lot of this is based on theory and pub games, right? I think the AoE, if it works, becomes awesome. If it doesn't, nothing lost, because the big thing is the cooldown reduction, I think. 60 to 20. 20 seconds. Every 20 seconds you can cast an AoE Nether Strike. It's quite powerful, I think. But yeah, the issue is you will have a hard time farming it. But I do like Aghs on Spirit Breaker if you can end up getting it at some point. Number 62 is Phantom Lancer. Spirit Lances bounce up to 5 times. So keep in mind, I know a lot of illusion heroes were nerfed, but in terms of how much gold they give, you can farm a lot of their illusions. But remember, Phantom Lancer's illusions, they only give 5 gold, as opposed to whatever like Nagas give. It's a lot more. So you don't have to worry about that as much. Some small little buffs here. And then he does have a lot of talent synergies with just increasing like stats in some way that will help. I didn't list them though. Will help the illusions. But the level 10, I get this every time if I want to go Aghs, is 75 extra damage to Spirit Lance. Of course, you're adding that to up to 5 times more. And then this one I don't think I usually get is level 15, 15% cooldown reduction. But this one's really cool because it allows you to farm faster. It allows you to deal more damage. It allows you to create an entire army of illusions with one Spirit Lance. So you don't need to rely on RNG to get those illusions. So you push even faster. I think it's pretty solid. It's kind of iffy in pro play. Sometimes you see it, sometimes you don't. But the biggest thing is Phantom Lancer just sucks. There's certain lineups where he might be good, and you 5th pick him and you just destroy. Most of the time you will get countered. He's kind of in a weird spot right now. 63 is Ogre Magi. He gets a new skill, is Unrefined Fire Blast. So it's essentially another Fire Blast. I can't remember if it's exactly the same, but the one thing that I know is different is the mana cost, which is 60. It costs 60% of current mana. That's tough, man. I mean, Ogre, he has a hard time farming. The level 10 is nice. It's 60 gold per minute. But of course, 100 cast range is pretty nice too. So that'll be a tough choice, I think. But overall, this is an okay Aghs. If you can get it, sure. but you're kind of stuck in this weird predicament, right? Where, all right, I use my Fire Blast. I still have full mana. Do I want to use my Unrefined and lose 60% of my current mana? Because then I can't use my regular Fire Blast as often for this fight until I regain mana. So there's that predicament. But at the same time, if you're low on mana, you will always have mana. No matter if you have 2 mana, you will have mana for Unrefined Fire Blast. So that's the plus side. So maybe not super consistent. The stats are pretty nice for Ogre, I think. It's okay. It's an okay Aghs. Lone Druid. Now that I'm looking at this, why do I have this so high if I think it's okay? I think it's because I take other people's opinions. People think it's better than I do, so I kind of come to a medium, right? That's why you'll see some discrepancies here. So Lone Druid at 64. This one's, in theory, super powerful. It allows the bear, it gets rid of the leash on the bear, so you can have the bear on the other side of the map and it be attacking. And if you, the Lone Druid, dies, the bear survives, which is very cool. Some changes, rabbit attack speed is increased. The base attack time for the bear has been reduced, which is good, makes it better. Some cool talent synergies. The bear's coming back, by the way. You're not going to be seeing this long-range Lone Druid that much anymore. Level 15, you get the plus 50 Spirit Bear damage. And then level 20, you have a choice between ridiculous magic resist for the bear or 12 armor. And yeah. And then 25. I mean, everything synergizes with this bear. But this is an item that you get once... And again, it's not for every game. It's like for split pushing a lot. If you just don't want to be close to the bear because there's no point. It's like a 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th, and beyond item. Remember, this is potentially 12 slot hero. But your bear needs to be powerful before you get this, obviously, or else there's no point. But we've seen games. I remember No Tail played one of the most amazing games I've ever seen. This was like a year ago with Aghs, and he literally just won the game for his team because it's super powerful. It allows your hero to actually be in the thick of things. Like you can fight, even though you may, like let's say you get a pipe or something because you're so farmed. You get aura items. You can still be in the fight, and your bear doesn't necessarily even have to be there, but even if he is, it doesn't matter if you die, right? Because the bear will survive. So 65, Tidehunter Gush. The cast range gets increased dramatically from 700 to 1800, and it becomes AoE. Lowers the cooldown by 5 as well, and reveals ground units that are hit. That's a new change. This is one you're not going to see too often. I think it's kind of a luxury item. If like this carry type Tide kind of comes back, which by coming back, I mean it's been 5, 6, 7 years since that was the case. I've tried the carry Tide. It's pretty interesting. I wouldn't say it's super powerful though. It's like Echo Saber, AC. You don't even get Blink necessarily. But yeah, I think the Gush against illusions, against push slams is quite good because remember you're decreasing armor, you're dealing damage, you're slowing. It's freaking good, this Aghs. It's just, can you afford it, right? And then the level 26 mana regen, holy crap, man. And then 25, you have a choice between -6 Gush armor or 20% cooldown reduction. 9 times out of 10, you're going to want the cooldown reduction. Probably even more than that because that's Ravage you're talking about, right? But just think about it. 6 extra minus Gush armor. I mean, and you have AC. So you have all this minus armor from Gush plus AC. Whew. You can build some pretty cool lineups, I think. 66. Whew, this one fell along a big time. Earth Spirit. He gets a new skill called Enchant Remnant. So what did this used to do? So, well, let's just talk about what it does now. So what you can do with very low range, by the way, like 125 range, you can turn an ally or an enemy into stone, a stone remnant. So they're invulnerable during this time. And then you can manipulate them the same way that you can use your stone remnants. So you can kick them away, you can pull them to you. And if you kick them away, it's a very far distance. So if you blink in, this is a farmed Earth Spear, by the way. You blink in, you cast this on an enemy, you kick them into your base. I mean, my God, it's broken. The issue is it's a little bit hard to pull off because first you need gold. Of course, this talent does help, 90 gold a minute, level 15. And then you have to position yourself. It's not super reliable necessarily. It's very risky to go in like that on a hero like Earth Spirit without just blowing all your skills and just starting the fight right there instead of kicking them away. But the biggest reason this has dropped 60 spots, just think about that. This used to be number 6 on my list, is because they got rid of the gripping targets, because that is now a level 25 talent. So overall, this is a huge nerf to the hero because level 25 is pretty difficult to achieve on Earth Spirit. But gripping allied heroes, it's like a reverse force staff. That's what made the hero broken when he originally came out. Then they got rid of it and put that into his Aghs, and his Aghs became god tier, just freaking insane. So now that's a talent, not part of the Aghs. The Aghs can still be great. It's just not consistent. So I dropped it dramatically. So here we are. Number 67, Huskar Lifebreak. The damage gets increased from 42% to 65% and reduces the cooldown from 12 to 4. So this got technically nerfed since the Lifebreak damage dealt got increased by default. So it used to go from 35 to 65. Now it goes from 42 to 65. So you know what I mean? It technically nerfs the Aghs. The Lifebreak leap speed was also increased a bit. So that's a buff. This one's interesting. It's hard to... First of all, Huskar blows ass. Let's be real, guys. It's a terrible hero. But in the games that you want to pick it, do you get Aghs? You can. You can just bounce from target to target. It's pretty fun, actually. It can be difficult to fit into your item build. Like the mana you get from it means like intelligence, and then the mana that you get from the point booster, just like half the stats are worthless for him. It's a bit of an awkward item, but the cooldown reduction is huge. And then the level 25 life break cast range can be ginormous. It's like a blink then at that point. I think this is a solid Aghs. It's pretty good, just not always realistic. And the hero sucks. Earthshaker number 68. Enchant Totem becomes a leap. You guys have seen the meme videos on this. This was a kind of a harder one because you don't get to see Earthshaker farm very well. It's not like a Sand King, right? In theory, having a leap for Enchant Totem really helps because mobility is, it's kind of like Sand King. Again, they're like almost the same hero in a lot of ways. Mobility really helps. He wants Force Staff. He wants Blink. Well, Blink first, obviously. Blink, Force Staff, even Shadow Blade. And Aghanim's could be that thing too. It's tough to tell if it's good though. I don't know. You get 50 damage at level 15, and 25 if you get there is minus 2 seconds to enchant totem. That's, I think that makes it 2 seconds. Pretty sure. So you can 3 seconds, I believe. So it's 5 seconds down to 3 seconds. So 3 second enchant totem, aka 3 second 900 range blink with a stun, technically speaking. Oh, and enchant totem now does true strike, so you won't miss. It has potential. This hero's starting to come back a bit, but it's like super supporty. He gets like 1-2 items a game. I don't know. I want this one to work. It sounds cool, but has yet to really make a splash. Number 69 is Lion, a bit overrated, I think. Turns Finger of Death into a 325 AoE and increases the damage from 850 to 1025, and lowers the cooldown, which is the biggest thing probably, from 40 to 20. And of course you have mana drain, so you can constantly get mana. It's hard to get this item though. You have a 90 gold per minute talent level 15. It feels very difficult to get this item on Lion. And when you get it, it feels more like you're just pushing waves because you're behind so much. You know, you ever get that feeling? So, yeah, not a huge fan of this one. Number 70 is Viper. So Viper Strike mana gets decreased from 250 to 125, and the cooldown goes down pretty dramatically from 30 to 10, and increases the range dramatically from 500 to 900. So why is this only 70? Because these, like, if you're just looking at the numbers, like, holy crap, that's really good. The issue is just Viper falls off a lot, especially if you don't itemize him to build like damage, like an MKB or whatever the case may be after your Dragonlance, Hurricane Pike, or whatever. And it's nice to be able to apply Viper Strike fairly consistently in a fight. There was a change so that Viper Strike deals its first tick of damage immediately. So before you would cast it, somebody would blink right away, right when they cast it. But now you can't really do that. So, nah. I think it's an okay Aghs in certain games. I just have trouble finding the time for that. I want this one to be good. I feel like they could make something better for him, though. It's okay. Number 71, Crystal Medine. The old Aghs simply used to increase freezing field damage, and it would also increase the attack speed slow and movement speed slow caused to enemies. Now, it causes freezing field to apply frostbite to any unit that's been standing in AoE for 2.5 seconds. And freezing field cooldown was lowered. That's just a change. That's not what the Aghs does. Level 20, 12 gold per minute. Boy, that sounds awful, huh? I'll have to fix that one. The gold per minute thing comes super late. Not that helpful. Level 25, if you can get there, this obviously will help quite a bit. 1.5 second extra to frostbite. The issue, it's kind of like Witch Doctor, where how long are you going to be casting this ult? Sometimes you're going to get a really good one. Sometimes it's going to get canceled right away. Sometimes you're just going to die right away. Not super consistent. This one is it. You might be able to convince me to put it a little bit higher. I just have yet to see it that consistently, especially in pro games, because they just never have farm. It's a difficult one. So again, a lot of these reworked Aghs, and especially we're going to be getting to them, the new Aghs, the brand new ones, or at least the ones from 7.0 and beyond, I've been very conservative with for the most part, unless I'm just very confident that they're going to be good. Number 72, Omni Knight, Guardian Angel. The duration increases from 8 to 10. It becomes global and affects buildings. We dropped this quite a bit. I think I overrated this pretty big time last time. That doesn't matter that much. He gets a 60 gold per minute talent level 10. It's decent. The fact that he doesn't have to be in the fight, I guess it's... I feel like this... I don't like this Aghs very much. It's nice to have an extra fortify for buildings. I actually think that might be the biggest deal, to be perfectly honest. If you're playing as an Omni Knight, you're going to buy a Diffusal. Doesn't work on Repel anymore, but it works on Guardian Angel, and this doesn't change that. Extra 2 seconds, it can be good. Global, if you have like a split pushing team and you want to make somebody invulnerable on the other side of the map, okay, it's going to be hard to farm this unless you're slacks. Meh. 73. A new one, Underlord. I got convinced to boost this up a bit. Actually, I had it a little bit lower. Atrophy Aura. So it causes half your current bonus damage to allies in a 900 AoE and increases the bonus damage duration from 60 to 100 seconds. So for those of you that don't know what Atrophy Aura does, it's the thing that in the area around you, well, there's two aspects. One, you lower the base damage of enemies. We're not going to talk about that aspect since it doesn't really apply. And then every creep or hero that dies in an area around you, you gain damage temporarily, right? So by default, it's for a minute. If a hero dies, you gain a lot of damage. If a creep dies, it's a little bit of damage. So the amount of time, the time in which you have this damage has been increased by 40 seconds, which is huge. That is ginormous. It means you're going to end up accumulating more damage over time. And then the other aspect is the amount of damage that you get. Let's say a hero dies. I don't know the numbers exactly. Let's say you gain 100 damage, which is not uncommon. And you're pushing, you will give half of that. So 50 damage to allies in 900 AoE. So I could see this being really good. It's kind of a snowball Aghs, meaning if you win a team fight, you will barrel down their lane without problem if your entire team is alive. Super fast push. The stats are good for Underlord. He farms decently well. He's not played right now, but that could change. So I can see the potential. I wanted this to be good. It could be good. It could be good. For now, we're being very conservative. That's the reason it's 73 right now. 74, Juggernaut, Omnislash. You get 3 more slashes, decreases the cooldown from 110 to 70. Pretty simple. And then all his talent synergies are kind of stat related. I had this around the same, so it's kind of weird. I had this at the same general area last time, and then a few pro players told me I was wrong. So I boosted it up by like 15 spots, I want to say, and then the community hated it. This is what happened in the last like 24 hours. I just put it back to where it was because pros, like the pros, they might say it's good in theory. They don't buy it. They don't buy this item, man. There's no way this is good. The cooldown thing is pretty nice. I mean, don't get me wrong. If Alchemist is in the game, then sure, give Juggernaut Aghs. I don't think you can fit this in your build as Jug, but the 3 slashes is nice. Gives you extra time to blink if you have a blink dagger, and then the cooldown obviously is pretty decent. So that's the tier 7 Bruno's Wardrobe. So tier 8, I think this one is overrated, aka Cinderin's Face. Aghs has been reworked. He's number 75. So the old Scepter used to lower the cooldown of Culling Blade, lower the cooldown of Culling Blade and increase the damage threshold. It was pretty generic, kind of boring. I didn't think it was very good. We had it around the same spot before. But now, units affected by Battle Hunger will have their damage output reduced by 30%. So that's 30% of spells, 30% of auto attacks. It's kind of like a mini break or a mini Silver Edge. Also, if an enemy is killed with Culling Blade, Battle Hunger will then be cast upon enemies in a 700 AoE. I have found this one has been very inconsistent and hard to pull off, honestly. In theory, it does sound strong. I know. And the one cool thing that's not, or I did mention here actually, is it technically says successful Culling Blade. If you use it on a creep, your cooldown for Culling Blade will go on cooldown. So it's not like it refreshes the cooldown like a kill on the hero. But if you use it on a creep, the AoE thing actually works, which is pretty cool in certain situations. The talent synergies, level 10, the 3 mana regen, this is what made this hero just god tier for me. And then, of course, level 25, 100 Battle Hunger DPS. Imagine level 25 casting this in AoE. That's insane. The 30% thing sounds really cool. It's hard to really quantify how good that is, especially since you can take off Battle Hunger now, unlike a few years ago. So this is a tough one. And the other aspect is, although the stats are pretty decent for Aghs to get, a lot of times you want other items, but I think you can fit this on Aghs. He gets a lot of like these middle tier items like Blade Mail, Crimson Guard, obviously Blink. That's 3 items that they're not like super expensive, right? So you can fit it, I think. Too early to tell. There's another one I'm being conservative with. 76, Medusa, brand new Aghs. It causes Mystic Snake to turn enemies to stone for at least 1 second and adds 0.2 seconds per bounce. So with the amount of bounces, did I put the math in here? I think it bounces 4 times. God, I'm looking idiot. I don't remember. It's either 4 or 5 times. So it'll stun for, I think, 1.8 seconds if it's 4 times. I do not think you can fit this in Medusa's build in a normal game because you just need these other items. The stats are okay for her, honestly, but she just needs damage. That's her freaking problem. But in games where you're playing against illusions, let's say a Chaos Knight, a Naga Siren, a Luna with SD, even though that's kind of old school now, this is definitely the item. You have to pick up this item. Medusa instantly becomes a counter to illusion heroes because when you turn them to stone, it's like a mini ult from Medusa. It instantly kills those illusions with just a Mystic Snake. So, and of course, when they're turned to stone, they take extra physical damage and no magical. So it could screw you over technically if you think about it. But I think against illusion, this is a no-brainer. You have to get it. That's why you put it 76. It's situational. Normal game, I don't think you buy it though. 77, Nature's Prophet, Wrath of Nature, increases the damage of it from 170 to 205 and creates treants if units are killed by it. this is very situational. I know a lot of people loved this when it originally came out, but you end up feeding, especially in the lower skill games, you end up feeding a lot of treants to the enemy. I don't think this Aghs is good because Nature's Prophet can build so many different ways. That's the cool thing about him. And there are games where you want to split push really hard and Aghs is needed. That's when you pick up Aghs. Otherwise, I don't think so. 78, Leshrac has been reworked. So the old one used to just provide more damage for Pulse Nova. I think I had this underrated last time. I thought it was garbage. It was okay. It turned into like a level 5 equivalent ultimate, which is pretty good. But now that's completely gone. Now what it does is it casts a pseudo lightning storm when your ult is activated every 1.75 seconds. So every 1.75 seconds, somebody in 750 radius will get hit by a lightning storm, but there's a big caveat here. It's not a regular lightning storm. It doesn't bounce. It's one hero. So that kind of makes this meh for me. But the talent synergies are pretty nice. So the 15 move speed, obviously 400 mana, blah, blah, blah. The big one, level 25, is 3-second lightning storm slow duration, which is huge. But keep in mind, you're giving up the Diabolic Edict damage, which is generally considered just to be better. Because the issue with Lesh is a lot of times you don't want to cast Lightning Storm. You just want to constantly move, which is why this is a cool upgrade in some respects, because you don't have to, you just run and you can manipulate your move or the way you're moving, or to make sure that within 750 radius there's less. I mean, it's just RNG if there's a lot of people, obviously. But the Lightning Storm can slow them. It can help you cast Split Earth. It could be good. Aghs is a good build-up for Lesh. I just feel like something's missing here, guys. So I think it would be broken if it cast an actual Lightning Storm. For sure, it would be broken. But how about keeping this effect but not needing to cast your ultimate? That's what my suggestion would be to improve this. So you just pass it. It's like a gyro thing, right? Except it's a mini lightning storm. Is that broken? It's tough to say. It's definitely better, though. I don't know, man. This feels pretty meh to me, but we'll see. Again, being conservative. Level 79, Bounty Hunter, Shuriken Toss. It allows Shuriken Toss to bounce twice to each hero and stuns for 0.75 seconds. So it stuns for... what is it, 0.1 second by default, something like that, and it adds 0.75 is huge. So think about it in theory. You're low ground going high ground right now, a bounty hunter, your team, obviously you're behind them. You track everybody in the enemy team, boom, 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 boom. You find a creep close to the tower, you hit it with Shuriken Toss, it will bounce, boom, 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 and then back, boom, 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 boom. It'll deal the damage twice, which the talent at level 20 helps deal even more. And you will stun them for, it's almost like a chain. It's kind of like a mini cask in some respects, except it has a much larger range. Sounds all nice and dandy, but that's in theory. But in practice, it's really hard to pull that off. I feel like Aghanims might be more of a luxury item. There's so many items that you kind of want to get on him. I want this to be good, though. I really do. I think it's just not consistent enough to be core. Occasionally can be good, though. Number 80. How many are there? There's 98, so we're getting them at this hour and 45. Holy crap. Oh, Lich has gone down quite a bit. Cast range increases from 750 to 850 of Chain Frost. You get the infinite bounces, which it can be good, but not super reliable. And the damage gets increased by 90. So what changed? Why did it drop? Well, Chain Frost cooldown was reduced slowly, or slightly, which is good. But the slow duration... Wait, what am I reading? Oh, here we go. Sorry. Again, tired. So the default Chain Frost slow increased from 50 to 65%. Why is that a big deal? Chain Frost cooldown reduced slightly. Did I write this wrong? If I remember correctly, Aghs used to increase it to 65. Now it's just built into the Chain Frost. I think that's what I meant to say. Oh, God, I'm so dumb. It actually says there. So it nerfs the Aghs, essentially. Also kind of hard to farm on him. It's a pretty meh Aghs. I could probably put this lower, actually. I think 80 might be generous. I don't know. The infinite bounces can be pretty big, though. Sometimes completely overrated, not super reliable. It can be good. Number 81, a reworked Aghs Shockwave. So the old one was the Empower Aura, and didn't really see it ever. Now it completely gets rid of that, and it increases the travel distance and speed of Shockwave and causes it to come back. So boom and boom. And the return wave slows by 60% for 2 seconds, and overall it does half damage to creeps. I first read this and I was like, oh, that's pretty cool. I can think of some synergies. You RP, and then you skewer them somewhere. Or sorry, that's the wrong way. You blink, skewer, RP, or whatever order you want to do it. And then as they're about to be unstunned, you cast Shockwave. And by the time they're unstunned, the second wave comes in, deals more damage, and slows them by 60% for 2 seconds. It's like, oh, that's pretty cool. I don't believe in this Aghs, guys. I'm sorry. It's a step in the right direction, though. I think the old one was way too weird. But I don't think we're there yet. But again, this is being conservative, and I'd have to see it more often, especially in pro play. Number 82, Darkseer Wall. The illusions will deal more damage. So instead of 90%, they'll deal 140% damage. I don't want to talk about this one too much. It's a boring Aghs. It used to be a super luxury when he was very overpowered, like literally 6th item kind of deal. I think it's dependent on if you're playing against certain heroes that are very, like if it's a Terrorblade, for example, you'll get a buff Terrorblade if you can land the wall. But it's pretty underwhelming Aghs, I think. And that's the thing about Darkseer. You can build him so many different ways. There's so many different utility items you need. So Aghs is a little bit underwhelming, I think. 83 is Naga Siren. Song of the Siren heals for 10% per second. I believe it lasts 7 seconds, so that's 70% heal. So if you think about that on paper, yeah, that sounds broken as mother effer. But I'll keep in mind that Song of the Siren also, the cast time was increased, cooldown increased, and range increased. So nerfs and buffs. This is difficult to pick up because, number one, you don't get this on core Naga, which is the more common of the Nagas. Support Naga, you're going to have a hard time farming it. That's not the only reason it's so low. If that was it, this would be like in the 50s. The biggest thing is I feel like it's so inconsistent. Like if the only way this is good is if you're using it to reset a fight. You're in the middle of a fight, and you guys are like half HP, you pop your ult, everybody goes to sleep, your entire team heals, you win the game. In that respect, yeah, that's amazing. When do you see that, though? How often do you see Aghs like that? Or, sorry, Song of the Siren used like that. It's mostly, I feel like at least, used to get away, or in the late stage, you set up a song to initiate, meaning the healing will never actually come into play, right? So I think it's pretty bad. I had this way higher. I was a believer, and I apologize for believing. 84, Morphling. He gets a new skill called Hybrid, which creates a replicate of a target ally for 20 seconds, which can cast all non-ultimate abilities. I'm sure there's certain combinations that can make this work. And on paper, as you can see, I had this way higher. This was another big mistake, I guess. I'm sure there's things in theory you can put together that will be pretty cool. It has to be a support Morphling, which is not common. And if you're support Morphling, you will have a hard time farming. So I want this to be good, guys, but I don't think it is, unfortunately. It is one of the cooler ones, though, I have to say. Very cool concept. 85 is Doom. It increases the duration of Doom from 15 to 16 and suspends duration within range, which I think is super overrated. It removes positive buffs and breaks passives, which is probably the main thing you need to pay attention to. Doom is just garbage. Garbage hero. Again, this is one of my favorite heroes too, so I'm allowed to talk shit, right? Garbage hero, and I don't think you can build Aghs unless it just does more than this. I think if you just look at the Aghs itself, it's like, oh, okay. It's okay. But think about the items you need on him. You build utility, you build carry in pubs. You need so many different items. I do not think you can fit an Aghs. Now, if there's a hero that has to have their passive broken and you just don't want to get Silver Edge, then you can think about getting this from time to time. Because that's the thing about this list, right? Most of the Aghs can be used at some time or another, if not all. There's only a couple I would say that are just complete dog shit right now. So, yeah. 86. Bane. This is Syndarin's face, by the way. This one has been reworked. So what it used to do, used to increase the DPS of Fiend's Grip and cause Nightmare to be cast on units attacking Bane while he channeled his ultimate. It was pretty bad before. Despite that, I have this lower right now, and I know you guys are going to hate me. Right now, it decreases the cooldown of Brain Sap from 11 to 1.5 seconds and allows it to pierce spell immunity. Just think about that. That sounds so good. And yeah, you can argue this should be higher. If you argued hard enough, I could put it in the 70s maybe, you know, but does it really matter at the end of the day? When are you going to buy this on Bane? If mid Bane came back, I could see it. Otherwise, you won't buy it. And even in theory, even with the mid Bane, this is late game. Because you have the level 25, 200 brain sap damage and heal, right? So that's 500 pure damage that you're healing for as well. Every 1.5 seconds. That sounds disgusting. But do you really think you're going to be sitting there, standing there, casting this over and over? This is another one I want to be wrong about. And maybe I am. But I can't envision Bane not just getting blown up by somebody. Super low HP, pretty squishy overall, has no escape mechanism. I mean, he has Nightmare, I guess. I just don't see it, guys. I'm sorry. All right, tier 8 is Slax's Career, a.k.a. For the Memes. 87, one of my favorite Aghs upgrades in the game, actually. Lifestealer. He gets a new skill called Assimilate. You gain the ability to eat teammates. So this is kind of what, if you watched the original video, I brought this up as an example of something that would be amazing to get from Alchemist, but you could just never build it on Lifestealer. I had this a lot higher before too because I just wanted to believe. If you guys want to have fun in a pub, try this out, man. It's pretty cool. I don't know how viable it is now, but you would get, you'd have a Pudge in the game, and one of you two gets Radiance, doesn't matter which, and you, the Lifestealer, has to get Aghs. He turns on Rot, you eat him, he is inside of you now. Anywhere you walk, actually, that's not quite the end of it. It gets better. So you take your little pretty butt into the Ancient camp, and then you get into an Ancient Golem, or any Ancient for that matter. Ancient Golem's probably the best. And you will have Rot on and Radiance. And you're an Ancient. Imagine going up against a team that can't kill Ancients. That is hilarious. I never had so much more fun. Or I never had as much fun as with that. That was good times, but it's a pretty shitty axe. Number 88, Oracle. Purifying Flames. The cast point gets reduced from 0.3 to 0.1, so much faster to cast, and lowers the cooldown from 2.25 to 1 second. All right, guys, I'm going to be real with you. I don't play Oracle. Nobody plays Oracle. This might be a good Aghs. I know it's not picked up on Oracle players right now. The few of you that exist. This is one that I feel like is, in theory, probably good. In fact, I know it can be pretty strong. You're going to have a hard time farming it despite having a level 15, 60 gold per minute talent. And I don't see this, they need more. I was thinking that they were going to give him originally the Aghs of what his old ult used to do, which is make the person that you ult invisible. Of course, it also kept breaking, or it's not disjoining. Sorry, I'm getting tired. What does it do? It takes off debuffs or whatever constantly. Or used to, at least. That was super broken. But yeah, you can make that the Aghs, make them invisible or something. And you can't, I don't know. Just an idea. This one, it just feels boring to me, but I know it's probably good. But nobody gets it. 89 is Beastmaster. Super boring. Primal Roar. Cast range increased from 600 to 950 and cooldown reduced from 70 to 45. Cooldown reduction's, it's okay. Cast range is pretty good, actually. This is super luxury on Beastmaster. Meh. A lot of these Aghs that I rank pretty low, I have not much to say about them, it seems. That's not true. Lifestealer I could talk about for days. Number 90, Elder Titan, Earth Splitter. The slow duration increased from 5 to 6, and anybody caught within the Earth Splitter will be disarmed. This is another one. Elder Titan's just never going to buy this. In theory, I guess disarming it's cool, depending on the lineup. But you can take off disarm with so many different things. Halberd is the one exception now, right? Halberd is really cool in that you can cast it before BKB, but that's not the same. Meh. So many different items you can get in Elder Titan. Number 91. We're almost there, guys. Winter Wyvern Arctic Burn becomes toggleable and removes limit on number of attacks per target. So it means you can constantly have it on. It'll drain your mana, though. And you can reapply the Arctic Burn over and over, which is pretty cool. And if you guys have ever seen a Wyvern carry before, look it up if you haven't seen it. It's actually pretty scary. It's pretty scary, and Aghs is part of it. And I think like you get like Mjolnir, Dragonlance. You just attack from a million miles away and super fast. But yeah, as an Aghs by itself, doesn't fit the role. Has a hard time. She can farm decently well, I guess, with Splinter Blast, but it's not super fast. But then that's a Wyvern farming as well. It's typically a 5 position. It might be a tad better than 91. I'm really not sure. But one day carry will be a thing. 92. I'm sorry. I know, guys. You know me. I love this. I want this to be good so bad. Wraith King, Reincarnation. Nearby slain enemy or allies, will transform into wraiths for 7 seconds. So it delays death by 7 seconds. You can keep casting skills. I can see it being okay, I guess, in certain extreme situations. Cool little trick that I mention here is doesn't matter if it's you or your allies that are getting revived for 7 seconds, but if any of you have a gem or a rapier, let's say you die, you become that wraith, you can TP back to base, and that's where your dead body will be. So it'll drop in your base, which is kind of cool. But, I mean, come on. This is super weird scenarios. Don't think it's good. Okay. 93, Slark. It's a brand new Aghs. This one I'm pretty confident is just dog shit. It reduces Shadow Dance cooldown from 60 to 30. That's really good. And causes it to be active in a 325 AoE hiding allied hero. Who cares? I think I saw a clip of Sumail and Arteezy winning a game with this, but it's so extreme that it's not good, guys. If an Alchemist is in the game, of course you get it at some point for Slark. The cooldown reduction is great, but what items do you get rid of for Aghs on a normal game? You can't. You can't get rid of an item for Aghs. And then when you hide your allied heroes, it's a pretty small area around you. So you have to be grouped up. So if there's any AoE, you're fucked. And number 2, they do not... Because when I originally read this, I assumed that this was the case because it sounded so bad otherwise. But the allies do not gain the regen from Shadow Dance. They're just hidden. This is a terrible Aghs. Number 94. Oh, that Slax's career for the memes, my friends. And the tier number 10, 9, 10. Fuck, it's late. It's now 7 in the morning almost. Tier 10 is US West Pubs, aka the Dumpster. The Dumpster. And some of these, maybe Slark could even go in there, honestly, but it's good for now. Number 94 is Chaos Knight. A lot of you might not even know he has an Aghs. It reduces the cooldown from 130 to 110 and allows his ult Phantasm to be cast on allied heroes within 1200 range. This kind of sounds like they're using the same formula as Weaver and Timelapse, except the cooldown doesn't get reduced by that much. And that's the main difference, I guess. Oh, the other difference is this is a Chaos Knight support. You're never going to buy this on... let's say you're a core Chaos Knight. You will never buy this Aghs because you will always want to cast it on yourself. And the 20-second cooldown reduction is nothing, especially when you have 20% cooldown reduction at 25. He doesn't farm that well, so actually 120 gold per minute at 20 is a decent option as well. There are some lineups that you can build that can take advantage of this. Chaos Knight has to be able to survive as a support, which we've seen before at times. It's not common. If you can farm Aghs with support and there's a Luna or something on your team, sure, you can get this. It does not mean that this isn't dog shit, though, I don't think. That's the cool thing about all these Aghs. Most of them, except for maybe, I guess you can still do it. Any of these Aghs can work in a game. Any of them. Including this absolute pile of garbage. Number 95 is Sven, God's Strength. I had this higher, surprisingly, before. It grants bonus damage when you activate it, 125% of base damage to allies in 900 AoE. So if they get out of the 900 AoE, they lose it. If they come back in, they gain it again. Seem to be grouped up. Core Sven will never buy this. Too many items to get. You've run out of slots really quick on Sven. Like a lot of times you feel like, oh god, I wish I could get this other item as well. Aghs is not one of them. It is not. Support Sven, which is a very old school thing. If it comes back, maybe this is a thing. Maybe. It's tough, man. Like just compare it to Underlord Aghs, right? You just get that passively, 50% of whatever, however much damage. If you get 1 or 2 kills, ends up being probably similar to this. Pretty bad. Number 96, Dazzle. This one's so disappointing. And I know a lot of people are going to disagree with me on this, and that's fine. That's what the beauty of this is, right? You can disagree. The old Scepter, I probably had the Scepter too high last time. I hyped it up a little bit too much. It probably should have been, I think it was in like the mid 30s or something. It probably should have been like 50s or 60s. It used to increase the armor per second gained / lost with his ultimate weave. That's gone now. Instead, you get a 450 AoE to Shallow Grave. Just think about it. First of all, Dazzle has to farm Aghs over other items. Number 2, you get Shallow Grave AoE. I know there's a group of people out there, and if you're watching, if you're one of them, this is fine, that really like this. They like the idea. I genuinely cannot see it. I'm not saying it won't work every now and then, but you're buying a 4,200 gold item to have a cool play every now and then. I don't think it's good. Number 97, second to last. I had to drop this since yesterday because there was a bug that apparently isn't a bug that I wasn't aware of. So when you get Aghs on Kunkka, the boat will drag units with it. And then it'll land. It basically ensures that whatever comes with the boat will land on the spot, whatever. Sorry. Now that we're getting to the end, I'm super tired. It'll drag with them, ensuring that they get stunned and they take all the damage. The travel time's reduced, which is nice. So it sounds all nice and dandy, except when you take into consideration, remember Ghost Ship was changed, right? To, instead of land a certain amount of distance ahead of you all the time, it'll land on whatever spot you tell it to. It'll still take the same amount of time to get there. So if you put it right on your own feet, it'll start way back behind you and then come to you. The reason that... Oh, sorry, I haven't even gotten to the point yet. So when you get Aghs on Kunkka, it changes that to be the old way, which is harder to hit. The reason they change it to be wherever you click is because it makes it much easier to coordinate with your team or just set up your own combos. Just quality of life stuff. When you get Aghs, it goes back to the old one. The question is why? So apparently, was there patch notes on this? Maybe I missed it. I did see this video, though, where let's say you're Kunkka and you're next to the enemy's tier 3 tower in mid lane. Just think about it. A little bit off to the side. Tier 3 tower, you're down on the ground, and the high ground is behind you. Okay, you're facing towards your base. You cast your your boat, and it'll come from behind as far back as possible. You put it on your feet. It'll come from way far back from their base. If there's anybody there, they'll get caught and come. You can push an entire team out of their own base. And I mean, it's kind of an extreme situation, but still, it's there. There's some abuses apparently. So they got rid of that and they put it back to the normal. So in some respect, getting Aghs actually makes your ultimate worse. This feels almost like a legacy thing, similar to what the OD Aghs was, where the old one, where they're just like, oh, we don't feel like updating this, whatever. Nobody's buying Aghs on this here anyway. So, yeah, this is terrible. Just absolutely terrible. And finally, friends, what I think the worst Aghs in the game is number 98. Your friendly neighborhood sniper. It's a brand new Aghs. Assassinate changes instead of a single target spells, turns it into an AoE spell, which locks on all enemies. So if you cast it on the area, those 4 enemies, even if they move out of that area, will get hit by Assassinate. And Assassinate changes from a magical damage spell into a 400 AoE, but it'll launch 2.8 times critical strike of your attack and procs headshot on players and controlled units, player controlled units. It sounds cool, right? I know. It does sound cool. Some talent, before I get to this, talent synergies plus 5 mana regen level 10 and level 20, 25% cooldown reduction because you want to snipe as often as possible, right? And in case you, even though it didn't say in the notes, I double checked, it still does a mini stun because headshot doesn't mini stun, remember? But it still has the mini stun from the old Assassinate. So why is this bad? So if you do the numbers, for this to be actually good and be able to kill people, and you can one-shot people. So if you want to have fun in a game with your friends, you pick 4 heroes that protect Sniper because he needs DPS items. You don't buy that Dragonlance. You don't buy a Lothar's. You don't buy any, like a Manta, Hurricane Pike. You don't buy any of these escape mechanism or defensive items. You go 100% DPS. You don't need attack speed either, remember. You do not need attack speed. You're using your ultimate to kill people. You need just pure damage, MKB, Divine Rapier. Just get Divine Rapiers. People have done this, I'm telling you. Bunch of Divine Rapiers. Hey, get the Wraith King with Aghs. You won't drop the fucking... I'm actually going to try that now that I say that out loud. So you get all these DPS items. You wait till a couple of players or even their entire team is in this 450 AoE or whatever the AoE is, 400 AoE. You snipe them. You can one-shot an entire team if you have enough damage. It does sound cool, but there's a big but here. Big, fat, juicy but. Well, the one thing you should be pretty obvious to you is you have to itemize for it. So you have to get pure DPS, which means you're going to be super squishy. Number 2, you need a team that protects you because there's no way you survive. Like they're just going to run after you. You can't get countered, obviously. Like you can't get a Spectre or play against Spirit Breaker, anything like that. And then the third reason, which is hilarious if you think about it, is you are hard countered by Blade Mail. Hard countered. You get this ult ready. They still see the debuff on them. It flies out and like, oh, it's already in the air. We're all going to pop Blade Mail. insta-gib you. Goodbye, Sniper. And then your Divine Rapiers drop to the deck. I saw somebody, because I explained it here in the text, right? And I saw somebody make a comment like, oh, you can actually counter their counter with a Ghost Scepter. That's true. But then you're a fucking Sniper with Ghost Scepter. So this is the worst Aghs in the game now, in my opinion. Oh, my God. That is the list, guys. If you want to read the list on your own, it's sunsfan.gg if you weren't already aware. Thanks for watching. I know a lot of you probably didn't watch this. That's fine. I did this for the people that enjoyed it, the original one that wanted the longer version. Tweet at me if you watched it. I'd appreciate that. I don't know what it is. I know this is stupid. It doesn't really gain me anything that I can tangibly see, at least. But I enjoy doing it. So hopefully you did too. Yeah, hopefully I didn't do anything super annoying, like say a million times, because I did start to notice I was doing that. But I am effing tired, so my apologies, friends. Thanks for watching, guys. Thanks for watching, and hopefully we'll be in touch soon. I don't know what I'm saying. I'm delirious at this point. My body knows that I'm done, so it's starting to shut down. Goodbye, friends. Love you guys. Thanks.